Yeah. Oh.
You know who we are. You know what we do. It's the 4th and 1 podcast coming to you live from Lancaster, Lidditz, Williamstown, Pennsylvania. At 4th and 1 podcasts, everywhere you get your podcasts. I'm going fast because we got a lot to get through today. And that part of the song is just cool, which is why I shut up, because I know when to do that. It's Election Tuesday. We're recording this early. We're going to try to get this out on Wednesday morning, if at all possible, if I'm good at my job, for you all. It's 6:40 p.m. at time of recording. Daylight savings time was this past week. It's a Tuesday, coming up on a Tuesday, so it's
Nice.
Dark outside. We're voting for a president. We don't know who it's going to be, but what we will start to find out and know for sure is the first college football playoff ranking drops in, at the time of recording, 8 minutes. So we're going to react live to that.
18
minutes. Thank you, Micaiah.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't introduce the one and only Captain Boring himself. It's Micaiah Schlicker, fresh back from Ohio and watching as close to humanly possible as he wanted to be Michigan get blown out by Oregon. And as always, it's not CFB3, Robert. Hi, guys.
That's me.
Happy. I have a fun little thing here for you. Straight from the Associated Press. Clemson coach Dabo Swinney blocked from voting in election. And we're not talking about the coaches poll. Turns out Swinney, whose name's William, explained the voting system had locked him out, saying William Swinney had already voted. Dabo went on to explain that his son Will had already voted, thanks to mail-in ballot. So, moral of the story, don't name your kids the same name, and you won't have issues voting. Shout out to all.
Yeah.
The third.
Yeah, buddy.
Robert just really messed up his dad's vote. That's just what just happened.
Like they weren't going to vote for the same person.
Amen, brother.
Listen, we got a fun week, a lot of upset, lots of topsy-turvy. Guys, no one responded to my text in the group chat, so we're just going to start alphabetically, and we're going to start with the ACC. Okay? Reactions just right off the bat, the big ones. Pitt loses to SMU by a lot, even though their quarterback was 100% or roughly 100%. And Louisville decides to play spoiler and upset Clemson. Who wants to take the first shot at what? Oh, yeah, Duke kept it close for about, 1.5 quarters? 2.5 quarters?
I was feeling so good at that. They had an 11-point lead in the third quarter. 11-point lead in the third quarter, and then they got behind, and then they threw an interception, and I was just like, Miami, just don't throw the ball. And Cam Ward was just like, nah, threw the football. Touchdown. It was a 22-point. We had the over-under at 21.5, or the spread, I should say. So, yeah, but hey, Michigan got me on the board with their blowout loss, so there we go. Another 1-2. We're getting back at it. But back to the program. Pitt, SMU. Both quarterbacks, Simeon, you mentioned one. Both quarterbacks actually went into this game questionable to play. And they both ended up playing. And Kevin Jennings, since he took over, I think, week 3 full-time, has been a revelation for the SMU Mustangs, and he was phenomenal on Saturday. He was 17 of 25 for 306 and 2 touchdowns, and then what he does in the running game as well helps them out. However, he didn't really have to do too much running the football because Brashard Smith ran the ball 23 times for $161 and another 2 tutties, 7 yards a carry. And what's more importantly is SMU and Rhett Lashley, they were all about offense. But 2 years ago when they took over, they've really become a kind of defensive team. Because I was looking at the standings, the ACC standings. It is Miami at 5-0 in the conference at the top, 9-0 overall. SMU 8-1, 5-0 in the conference. Miami has given up in conference play 162 points. SMU's only given up 105. So, and that is besides the Cal Golden Bears, who are 0-4 in the conference, giving up only 94. That is second in conference for points allowed in conference play in the ACC. So SMU is really not only doing it offensively, but defensively. And Kevin Jennings didn't even have to run the ball. That's what I find so fascinating about this Mustang team.
Only the Kentucky Hilltoppers, who are atop of Conference USA, they've given up only 66 points in conference, which is kind of crazy for an air raid system. Also, I did not go alphabetically. Did anybody watch? I watched a little bit of the Clemson Louisville game. Anybody watch that? Want to make a comment on it? Disappointing. Disappointed down in.
I was stuck with just. Excuse me. I was stuck with just with regular cable, so I didn't have my typical setup over the weekend. So no, I was just watching what was on the two channels.
I wouldn't say that it was that Clemson losing wasn't necessarily a disappointment, just because I watched when Louisville played Miami, and Miami is like that. They're essentially like that sneaky spoiler team right now, and they already played SMU, which is a good thing for SMU because they probably would, like, Louisville probably would get SMU, but I mean, Clemson just kind of like they looked like they did week one, watching them against Georgia. The offense was kind of stale. The defense was kind of like, eh. And then, they're not built to play from behind, is like the best I could probably say about them.
Their weak quarterback play down in South Carolina and in Georgia. Let's head over to the SEC again here. We're about 12 minutes from the drop, so stay tuned. Also, if you've made it this far, 74% of you, most of that is our YouTube shorts, are not subscribed to the podcast on YouTube. It really does help us out. We're at 51%. If we break 500 somehow, some way, we can turn on monetization, which would help us out and make the podcast better. We like making a good podcast for you guys, the listeners. Right now, it's brought to you by you guys. So go ahead, like, subscribe, and comment down below who's your favorite Southern white quarterback. Micaiah, what's up?
Rob.
Yo.
I'm looking at the stats because, again, I didn't work. This was on ESPN, and my grandmother doesn't have ESPN because she has like 9 channels, right? So,
shout out grandma.
And my wife, it was her birthday, so she was using the laptop to watch her shows. Okay.
But shout out grandma.
But shout out grandma. What went wrong for Clemson? Because Clemson had like almost 500 total yards of offense, no turnovers, and they just got obliterated.
Yeah, it was. They would just do their thing where get the ball, drive down. Like, they were sustaining drives. They just couldn't put the ball in the end zone. They had a missed field goal before the half. I mean, they were down 17-7 going into the second half. But, I mean, they missed, 1, 2 field goals, which, I mean, yeah, it's 6 points. But that's also, instead of being down, 17-7, they're down 17-10. And you're kind of looking at momentum changing because Louisville came out the second half and rattled off 3, 6, 9 in a row before Clemson even scored. They were like your prototypical, I'm gonna drive this ball, play some clock, and then when push came to shove, I was not gonna get a first down and had to punt the ball.
They missed a field goal. Oh, Louisville had a field goal return for a touchdown too. So, if they play this again, is this turning out different? Or no?
Yeah,
or is
probably.
This Clemson? Or is it?
No,
or is this
probably.
Clemson?
It probably does. It probably is changed. Yeah, whether Clemson wins and or the game is definitely a lot closer. I don't have the faith in Louisville that they would be able to go like 2 in a row on a team because they went and kept it super close with Miami within a touchdown, should have won, but then they go Boston College, they squeak by that one by 4, and it's like, well, yeah, they're like consistently inconsistent, I would say.
Apparently, Nick Saban called this because Clemson really hadn't played anyone of note to that. So Nick Saban
True.
actually called that Louisville was going to upset Clemson. I was kind of riding high on Clemson. But Simeon, where'd you want to go in the SEC? Sorry about the derailment there.
No, you're totally fine. Let's actually jump back talking about trap games. Makai, Nick Saban called a trap game. What was the trap game that we called last week?
South Carolina?
Robert remembers. Way to go, Robert. You get the gold star for the week. That was a game that I watched. Watching South Carolina play Texas A&M, you wonder why they don't have more wins in the SEC. That's like, and it's not like Texas A&M. They proved they beat the teams they needed to beat. Obviously, Notre Dame is devastated now. There's no way, and I don't mean to be rude, and I'm going to say this with 8 minutes left before they drop the rankings. If Notre Dame is ranked in the top 10, I don't care that they have one loss. It's to Northern Illinois, and now their best win that they will have until they play Army, I think that's next week, is now, what is it, 7-2?
It's probably Louisville now.
Well, yeah. And Army still needs to beat Texas, and we'll get back to Army because they're the undefeated North Texas this week, and they're only getting 5 points against them. But rant, go back, Texas A&M, South Carolina. I'm really bad sometimes, I'm like
right
Donald Trump. I do the weave. It's the best thing I can do.
You're right about South Carolina, though. Shane Beamer said, listen, we're almost in the exact same spot that Texas A&M was, right? And they're right. They had a 17-point lead against LSU at home. Let that slip through their fingers because Sellers went out. Then they did get rocked by Ole Miss 27-3, okay? Then they were down 14, come all the way back to Bama, go to we are a 2-point conversion away from tying Bama, going to overtime then, and then they're at Oklahoma. They dominated Oklahoma, and then they just pretty much did whatever they want on the ground against Texas A&M. What I was shocked with is it was the same concept again and again and again, and Texas A&M just had no answer. And the same concept was they would get to the quarterback. Lenore Sellers would somehow do a college football 25, break a sack about 9 times, either throw the ball away or scramble for 20 yards. And then it was a QB sweep or a Rocket Sanders sweep around the outside, and Texas A&M would be there, break a tackle, and they would run for 20 yards. So the Aggies defense, which was so sure-handed at tackling during the point of the season, really, again, everyone saw this coming. Everyone was talking about how this was a trap game, this was a trap game, this was a trap game. And I thought that it would be close, and it was. It was 20-20 at half, and then it was a shutout, a 24-point shutout by South Carolina in the second half, which was super impressive. And they kind of just took over the game and just manhandled the Aggies down the stretch.
Sorry, I'm looking at all the ticket prices. I texted you guys, and I want to go back and find this text message. But, I was left with so many questions, and I'm hoping Robert can explain them with how much he's roasted me this week in the chat. Just absolutely owning me. Much like I owned his mom this week.
Come on.
Little inside joke there for you guys. Nope, that's me locking myself out of my house. Also, what's happened. How good is the SEC? Because at this point, they're like the MAC, but with good players. No offense to MAC players. But they are. They're not. They're all bloodied by each other, and now I'm sitting here wondering how good they actually are when they go up against a team who can scheme like Indiana, right? Or go up against a team like maybe Ohio State who matches them in talent, right? How good is the SEC, Rob?
The SEC is the SEC is still good. Okay, hold on. The conference itself I wouldn't say is good. I would say there's definitely individual teams that are definitely standing out, but it's honestly the way that the like each team's schedule is. Probably the strongest team in the SEC right now, it might be Vandy. Just no, don't give me that look. Just because of the way their schedule is. Yeah, you're gonna look and say, "Oh, well, Georgia's number 2." Well, that's all fine and dandy when you're playing Auburn, Mississippi State. Okay, you beat Texas 30-15, but struggled, almost should have lost to Florida if DJ Lagway doesn't go down. You have Ole Miss, who can't play a big game ever. You're going to play home against Tennessee, so you're not even going to the toughest place to play, probably in the SEC, other than Death Valley. And then you're going to go and play Massachusetts and Georgia Tech. Alabama is struggling this year, and Alabama just is kind of grasping for straws. They have to go to Death Valley this weekend and play LSU. Then they get Mercer, Oklahoma, and Auburn. So there's a cakewalk after LSU. The schedules are actually really bad because the whole bottom half of the SEC is that bad that they have to hope that they get at least 2 ranked games.
Right, but Rob, you're not going to sit here and convince me that Vanderbilt's the best team in the SEC.
I didn't say the best team. I said the strongest team. The best team is probably Texas. Strongest, okay, when I say strongest, I'm not saying, oh, this is the team that's going to win every single game. The strongest is a team that even when they're playing bad teams, they're still like, okay, it's Vanderbilt. That's how they play. Georgia's going in and playing bad teams and is looking like Vanderbilt. Alabama's going and playing bad teams and is looking like Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt plays games and they look like Vandy.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and I will concede that point. You're right about Texas. Like, Texas is only lost to Georgia. That my biggest concern with Georgia is not defensively anymore, because they will wake up. Absolutely, it's Carson Beck. He's the only quarterback
5
in the country.
interceptions against Florida.
3.
He looks like a meth addict.
3.
He has. I've been saying that since last year. He has 3 games of 3+ interceptions. He has, I think, in almost every single game this year, he has multiple interceptions on the year. I'm pulling up the stats right now. Carson Beck has he has 10 touch. Oh, that's conference play. On the year, he has 17 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. But let's just go to conference play. In conference play, he has 10 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. He's terrible in conference play. Last year, he was 24-6 on the whole year. So he has definitely regressed. And this was a Florida team that was desperate, that's going to play you tough, right? But the only reason Florida was in it, because Lagway went out, as Robert said, was because Carson Beck just kept throwing interceptions. That's the only reason Florida even had a shot to win this in the third quarter.
Dude, I mean, that
it was a 20-20 game in the third quarter.
Carson Beck kept Billy Napier's job.
100%. He's the only reason. If Florida could have pulled off that upset, Carson Beck would have been just gone. They would have got rid of him. They would have buried him somewhere in Athens, and they would have paraded Napier around like he just won the national championship.
Yeah. I this is like the funny thing about the SEC is just, I'm looking right now. So Texas is 3-1 against AP poll top 5 teams. Or AP poll team, sorry, mind you. Tennessee is 3-0, but we've been waiting for Tennessee to drop another game, I guess is what I should say. Georgia's looks soft. Texas A&M now looks possibly soft. 5-1, 7-2. Like, I agree, LSU might be able to pull something out of spectacular, but I'm looking at a Missouri Tiger team who in conference has scored 61 points.
They're bad.
It
has not been.
Missouri's bad offensively.
And defensively.
I'm just looking
that
at
too. Although not the worst. Not the worst in the SEC. They've only in conference play given up 119 points. The two teams at the top, Georgia and A&M, 132-138. Texas has given up 70. That's the lowest in the conference play. Rob, I want to get you here. So last year, I felt like, or the last couple years, right? I felt like the question was, what defense do we trust the most, right? In a big time game, what defense is going to show up and what defense is going to be consistent? Now, this year, I feel like it's for every single conference, the question is, what offense do you trust to go out and get you 30 points? For whatever reason, I just feel like the offenses this year are really lacking, and it probably has to do something with NIL and in terms of teams having depth. Oh, look at the Washington State Cougars being 7-1. Good for them. I did not even know that.
Cougs.
Shout out Washington State. But in the SEC, let's stick there. What offense do you trust in a playoff game, in a title game, in a need to have it situation? Do you trust to go get you points?
2 teams. I still trust Texas.
Absolutely, 100%.
And this one will surprise you, but I actually trust LSU. Their offense is actually
randomly me too.
Like their offense is actually surprisingly very consistent.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't know if it's Brian Kelly who kind of like gets in the way, but offensively they're pretty consistent. Like their quarterback plays consistent, they're scoring points, driving the ball. If they shore up their defense against Alabama, LSU probably walks away big winners here.
I actually agree with you. In this scenario, I agree with you. Georgia, Carson Beck turns the ball over. A&M, they're going back and forth. They can't figure out which quarterback can produce them points. Tennessee, Nico is totally mediocre, I think. At this point, at least. Would you agree with that? That Nico's mediocre?
I just think he needs to grow. He needs to grow, and he needs
right. I'm not saying forever. I'm saying right now.
Oh yeah, he just needs to grow. That's
Texas. I trust LSU. I trust the other offense that I would trust to at least produce and be productive and not shoot themselves in the foot. And you already mentioned them, Robert. Is Vanderbilt?
Yeah.
Diego Pavia is going to go get you points. Ole Miss struggles from time to time if Jackson Dart isn't having a record-setting day, and Alabama is up and down because they can't figure out their identity yet. So Simeon, the conference confuses me, but this is the first year the SEC, like the champion of the SEC, I will look at and be like, you know what? I could see them losing in the first round.
100%.
Whoever that is.
Easily. I have it up here, so I'm monitoring before they release it.
I think we all have it up.
Okay. All right, cool. Good for us. Let's jump over to the Big Ten. Probably the number one contender right now for who could beat an SEC team. And we got 2 teams at the top, and one of them was called the number 1 team. AP beginning. The other one, nowhere else. Nowhere on a rank. Curtis Rourke came back and played like he never left. Indiana Hoosiers currently lead the team. Looking with numbers very similar, to be fair. Soft schedule to start the season. But with numbers in conference similar to the Oregon Ducks. Who absolutely destroyed Michigan. But I want to talk about 3 and 4. Because now I don't know who the third best team, and if Ohio State loses, dude, that lovely chaos thing that I put together a few weeks ago comes true. So Ohio State, Penn State, it was the battle for the brainstem. It was the battle to the bottom. We're going to call it in Beaver Stadium, the Beaver Stadium battle to the bottom. Who is the better-ish coach by 1 game, James Franklin or Ryan Day? And we figured out it was Ryan Day, but just barely, question mark, fumble in the end zone. Can someone tell me, you both watched this game, right?
Yeah.
What did I watch? Because I watched it too, or at least for the first 3 quarters.
2 very evenly matched teams, especially defensively. But Ohio State is a team that wants to run the football, 2 great backs, but can't either because of the offensive line or because their wide receiving core is outstanding. And then Will Howard, for as much as he got the bragging rights over Penn State because he wanted to play at Penn State and they didn't offer him, and then he went to Kansas State and now he's at Ohio State and wanted to win this game,
Shout
whatever,
out downtown.
right, is mediocre, right? He is, and I put it in the chat and I stand by this, Kyle McCord is a better quarterback than Will Howard. He just is.
Whoa. You put it in against when he played Syracuse with the Syracuse game last week. But who was the one who actually put it in the chat first?
Okay, fine. You put it in the chat first.
You got to give me credit. When I pay attention and get something right, you got to give me credit. Because if not, I'm just a pretty face on this podcast.
That's fair, and you ain't even that, bro. So, I just think Kyle McCord is the better quarterback over Will Howard. And then Penn State, you do you open the drive, you go down the field, and you're very creative, right? You're very creative. You got Tyler Warren, you got all this stuff. You go down, get a field, and then it's a whole lot of nothing. You get the pick six, you're up 10-0, then you fall behind, and you're kind of chasing your tail the rest of the game. And then you're very creative on your last drive, get all the way down to the 1-yard line, and then you're just like, inside zone, nope, inside zone, nope, inside zone, and then a play action, and then on 4th down, a play action pass to Tyler Warren that everybody saw coming. So the creativity stopped. Penn State is now 1 for 23 against AP top 10 opponents since the year 2000. Yes, James Franklin hasn't been there since 2000, but Penn State is just not elite. I would say Ohio State is the better team, but I would say Ohio State has an identity crisis. And with how expensive, let's just put it that way, that this defense is, Robert, I would expect them to be more shut down than what they are.
Micaiah, I have to disagree with you there only because they're the best defense in conference in the Big Ten. There's not a better defense.
Well, yeah, but look who's they've played in conference.
I mean, fair, but they're also the best. They're also the best. They're also the best defense by 30 points.
30
out of conference in the Big Ten conference.
32 of those 76 came from Oregon. So against top tier teams, their defense is not that good.
Sure.
Okay,
but
great.
But also, you can't say that it's not the
Army
defense.
at 25. Army 25.
Oh, here we go.
Rob, why they're doing 25 here? Do you have an opinion on Ohio State, Penn State?
Yeah, Penn State has no offense, which is exactly what we thought was going to end up happening. Like,
how is Missouri at 24? Are you kidding me right now?
There we go. Live reactions to the college football playoff as they're coming into us.
Rob, Missouri should not be ranked. Am I wrong?
No. Listen. We all know, but hey, it's the SEC, and what is it, Sankey? Sankey's his name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ward Manuel
Clemson 23.
Clemson Ward 23. Manuel doesn't know his head from his ass, though.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, if Ward Manuel actually was good
Clemson
at his job,
ranked.
He would have. I don't mind Clemson. If Ward Manuel was good at his job, he would have actually kept the NCAA away from. Oh, Louisville at 22. That's just. Those are fighting words. Are they?
I think this is honestly. I think this is just because this is the first time they're actually putting the schedule's strength in thought. That's why Army's 25, because Army's played no one. You know what I mean?
Look at
Washington State.
Yeah,
but then Washington State is 7-1 at number 21. I don't know. This is why it's the first one, because the first one never makes any sense.
Yeah. Well,
I love that they put Clemson and Louisville right next to each other just so they could yell at each other next year.
But
when they play each other,
had to be above Clemson because Louisville literally just beat Clemson. Colorado 20.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't hate it. They've turned around and been able to put together a really good Big 12. I've hated a lot on, and we'll see how they do. I hated a lot on Colorado and what they've done in the past. I was just thinking about this today, but they're 6-2 and they look decent.
Let's talk about the Big 12 in Colorado. Colorado's sitting there third in the Big 12. Iowa State went down. Kansas State went down, now has 2 losses. So the only left undefeated conference team is BYU. Kansas State coming in at 19, just right above Colorado. They did play a head-to-head, and Kansas State did win. Robert, thoughts on the Saturday mixture and now the Big 12 conference in as a whole as Pittsburgh comes in at 18 there?
Don't like that. That's a soft 7-1 for Pittsburgh. Sorry.
It is. I think what we're starting to see what we thought about the Big 12 is it's wide open, and who knows what's going to end up happening towards the end of this, because you figure Kansas State and Iowa State, these two teams are one loss away from letting Colorado sneak in there. BYU's got the Holy War this weekend, so I mean it's possible we could end up with Colorado as a Big 12 at least like representative in the championship game. But
Ole Miss at 16, Iowa State at 17. Only a 1-point loss to Texas Tech.
Yeah, but Iowa State, I mean, really, all the Big 12 teams have been messing around, have all been in one, except BYU, have all been in like one possession games, have all been kind of messing around. Iowa State, UCF, right, needed like a 10-point fourth quarter comeback, something like that, with like 20 seconds left to beat UCF. Colorado's had a Hail Mary already this year. Kansas State, LSU is at 15 above Ole Miss. And again, they had to do that because LSU beat Ole Miss. But this range right in here, 15 through 19, this is the interesting range because there's typically a team, at least in the 12 team or at least in the 4 team, that came out of this 16 through 20-ish range up that always made the college football playoff.
We got
and made
4 more games left.
And made things very interesting. Simeon, where do you want to go from here? What's up, Rob?
Go ahead, Rob.
Wait, so, okay, if LSU is going to be 15, where the hell did they put A&M at then?
Well, A&M would
My
have
guess
to
is going to be like 12.
Yeah.
Or 13. They're either going to be the first out or the first in.
So... okay, so the second team out.
So they put them at 14. You were right, Simeon. They put them at 14, then the second team out.
I was close.
Actually, so then in the AP, they flip-flopped them.
Yeah.
SMU, first team out. I do not like that at all.
Well, but
they have to be, though.
Who has SMU
Boise
played?
State.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
well,
because of Boise.
And SMU did lose to BYU. So there's that.
Which is a really good loss.
It is now. It's getting better by the minute.
Yeah. Makai, to answer your question, this is what I want to do for the rest of the podcast. Is we're going to get this.
Okay.
This is what we're doing.
All right.
Plan was to do the first half, the preview,
so
and then we can look at some of the games.
12 will be Boise. We're at number 12. This will be Boise, right? This should be.
Yeah.
Boise State is in
Boise
at 12. I honestly think Boise can climb higher than 12.
Which means
I really
that Notre
do.
Dame's going to be like 8 guys.
Yeah,
do you know how mad that makes me?
Yeah, we do, because you already said it was going to make you mad.
Well, it's called a callback, Micaiah.
Gosh, man.
Gosh.
Ashton Genty, Alabama at 11. Rob.
That's a hard on for Alabama.
That?
That's normal. I mean, that's where they have them in the AP. Like that. Like now it's like 12, 11. Like that's actually, I'm okay with it because again,
sorry, go ahead.
Alabama's signature win is against Georgia, who we're seeing week in and week out is actually not as good as what we're kind of thinking.
We get a little pause here. Heisman, and I'm bringing this up because Ashton Genty, Boise State at 12 here. He went for like 130 something. Another 4 touchdowns on Saturday. Is he still everyone's Heisman leaders? Did we put
him and
Travis?
Dylan Gabriel, right?
Well, Gabriel's probably up there now. He's been lights out.
Shedeur?
Travis.
I think it's the other one.
And Travis,
Travis. Genty
Notre Dame at 10, Simeon.
Thank you.
10.
Genty went for 149 and 2 tutties on Saturday against the San Diego State.
Thoughts on Notre Dame at 10?
I don't. I'm going to take this one.
I mean, where else are you going to put them?
Yeah, basically. That's the only place.
At 12. Put them at 12.
That's the only other option, but they technically have a... better schedule
State
than
has to be
Boise.
worse than them.
Yeah.
I mean, Boise
better.
doesn't have to be worse than
Well,
them.
I think Ashton Genty could go 1v11 and probably take
BYU,
Notre
not
Dame
worse than
defense.
them, but
BYU at 9, and they would be the 4th
BYU
seed.
at 4.
No.
Be the 4th seed. They're 9 at the 4th
Right.
seed.
Right.
So I have it on my phone. I'm moving my mic around
Yes.
like a
They're 9
meth
at the
addict.
4th seed. So they are the 4th highest conference
Yes, they're
ranked.
putting basically the Big 12 as the 4th best conference.
Yeah. And so they're putting them at 9, but they would be the 4th seed. They would get a first round bye.
I would love a BYU Boise State game.
Dude, that would be all time. That would be a good uniform game. That would be a good uniform game. Yeah.
Which one? Sorry. Which would be the good
Boise
uniform?
State, BYU. Because if you look
Also-
at it, who's going to be 5? Ohio State probably, or Penn State. I'm sorry, Penn State.
Indiana at 9.
Yeah,
At-
probably.
Indiana
Again,
is
because of
8,
their soft
and so
because
they
of
would
their
be the
soft
9th
schedule
seed.
because of their soft schedule to start. I don't hate Indiana at 9.
Indiana's got everything open. If they shellac Michigan this weekend, which I think
at
everyone's
8, sorry.
expecting them to, and then
This
they
is where it
beat
gets
Ohio
confusing.
State in Columbus, Indiana's got nowhere to go but up. Indiana, and then they get Oregon in the conference championship game. Rob, what you got?
I think Indiana can make the playoffs. Obviously, beat Michigan. That's a no-brainer. It's in Indiana. They should put 40 on them. If they keep the game close, win or lose, if it's a close loss on a road, that still works in their favor. They don't go to a Big Ten championship, but I think they probably could slide in at 11, 10, because by them at that point they should be like 6.
I think at this point, Rob, you'll have the 2 teams in the conference championship game for the Big Ten, and then whoever that third is on the outside, I think they get in, and maybe even a 4th. I think the Big Ten is guaranteed for in.
Tennessee
at 7, so they would be the 8th seed.
8th seed.
Indiana, Tennessee, that would be an electric
That would be a
offensive
great
matchup.
game, and that would be Tennessee home game. So it would be.
Yeah, I'd rather
Dude.
than Indiana.
I'd rather at Memorial Stadium too, but like
Hey, guys, we still got 4 more weeks of this. It all good. It'll figure
everything-
itself out.
yeah, you're not wrong. I always say everything. I say
I'm
everything
just going
changes
by
in
like,
6
okay,
months
if it
apart.
ended right now, how am I going to feel about this?
No, that's fair. That's fair.
And we'll get there, and we'll also get to our picks.
But I do think
went
Tennessee's
2-1.
defense is better than Indiana's.
I almost went 3-3. If Army's quarterback had not been out, I would have gone 3-0 2 weeks in a row.
But you
And
didn't.
Army
you
only
didn't.
lost by 2, and their over was they were minus 22.5. I needed a freaking field goal out of Army. Did we get our 6th seed yet?
we
No, we
have not
didn't.
gotten the 6th seed. Penn State,
Penn State is our
is
6th
the,
seed.
That'd be-
is the 6th team 7th seed, so they
That's-
would be Notre Dame.
That's
That
a
would
forgot
be
they
good.
snooze game.
existed. Yeah,
That'd be a what?
That is a snooze
Snoozer.
game. Snooze
Defensive
game.
but it
matchup.
would be in Happy Valley. Texas at 6. Sorry,
What?
No, 5.
Bama.
Texas, Bama.
Well, I mean, they're looking at
Rematch.
Texas' schedule. They've only
Rematch
played
game.
Georgia, really.
Well, yeah, and the committee's got to put Georgia, and that Michigan win isn't as impressive as it once
Mhm.
was.
The Michigan one wasn't impressive when they played them.
You have to put Georgia above Texas. True, you have to put Georgia above Texas because they value head to head, or so they say.
Mhm.
So
So
Texas,
Georgia's probably your
Number 2.
What? Yeah, 2.
It's either that
So-
or Miami.
So who's 5? So who's 5 here?
Texas is.
No, Ohio State. Who's 4? And that the answer is Ohio
Who's
State.
4?
we're gonna
Who's
see.
4 in the 5th seed? I'm sorry. Who's the 5th seed?
Okay.
Which is the 4th best team?
Ohio
Yes.
State.
Ohio
State.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
who we're going to
has to
see
be.
next. It's gonna be Ohio State,
Texas,
Miami,
Alabama
Georgia. Miami at 4. Are you
I don't
kidding
like that.
me? You
Miami
think-
at 4, and they would be the 3 seed.
I get that they've been playing worse the past couple, but
Yeah,
they're
but
still
here's what I-
undefeated.
Oh,
Here's-
so we
here-
would get Ohio State, Boise State. That's a dumb matchup.
Here-
But
no,
hold on. Hear me
here-
out, Robert. Ashton
here's-
Gency goes for 300 yards and 5 touchdowns on Ohio
but it's
State's
at-
defense.
It would be so much better if it was at Boise State.
If
though.
it
Yeah.
was, if it was in Boise.
Guys, but here's my problem with this. Texas is better than Miami.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter though.
Yeah,
But it
we were
does.
we are comparing conferences at that point.
Yeah, that's
I agree
Like-
with you. They're a better football team, but we're comparing conferences at that
but the
point.
seeding at this point doesn't matter. So put Texas at 4 and Miami at 5, and Miami's
Yes, it
still
does
the 3
because
seed.
they need to have an ACC, they need to have a Big 12, they need to have a Big 10, and they need to have a. You see
You're
my
still
point?
you're still gonna get that. Georgia
Georgia number 2, which puts Oregon at 1.
No, Georgia at 3, so it's gonna be Ohio State, Oregon 1 and 2.
What?
That's what Oregon's gonna be 1, Ohio State's gonna
well.
be 2, but Ohio State is gonna be
Yeah, Ohio
The-
State's
the-
at 2, which puts them at the 5th seed, and Oregon at 1. I do not like, and I'm saying this as a Michigan fan, and I'm saying this even more as a college football fan, I do not like Ohio State at number 2 in the rankings at all.
Well, I guess they're looking at it and saying Ohio State has looked better than Georgia, and the only resume difference I would say they would have is Ohio State's loss is to number 1 Oregon. Georgia's loss is to number now 11 Alabama, and Georgia hasn't looked good since then. Against Texas, but that's why they're ranked ahead of Texas. Other than that, like Ohio State hasn't looked like no, Nebraska they didn't look good, but they still was 21-13 win over Penn State on the road. So I mean, I can see why they're 2. Do I agree with it? No, but I see why they're there.
So I get that. My biggest problem is that Texas is below Miami. That's my biggest problem with this. Texas is below Miami is playing with so much fire. The fact that Duke scored 30, 40 plus points on them on Saturday is just ridiculous. I can't trust Miami's defense. I can't trust Cam Ward not to turn the football over. Miami and Georgia are basically the same team at 3 and 4. I understand that you have to put Georgia above Texas, but then you need to put Texas above Miami because if they go head to head, Texas is winning that game by 2 touchdowns.
Who's Texas's win though?
Who's Miami's
Texas?
wins?
Yeah, they're 9-0 versus 7-1. That's the disparity.
There is an aspect
9-0,
of
7-1, and how are you going to penalize Miami? Because now we're going back to Florida State. How are you going to penalize Florida State, who finished undefeated? But now you're going to penalize
Vandy's not
Go ahead.
ranked, right? Sorry,
No,
Vandy's not
Vandy
ranked.
is not ranked, correct. They take on they host South Carolina this weekend, by the way. That's should be a game people watch. Just it's going to be a good football game.
Again, we're looking at Texas, whose Texas's schedule isn't really that great either.
But
Pulling it up,
I
Rob.
just feel this is Miami's schedule: Florida, Florida A&M, Ball State, South Florida, Virginia Tech, California. Virginia Tech, California, Louisville were all 1-possession games. Florida State and Duke was a lot closer than the 22-point win as we already covered. I still feel like a loss to Georgia by Texas, and I get what you're saying, Rob, and to an extent I agree with it. But
Micaiah.
the loss to Texas is better than that Miami schedule.
So
hold
on.
Here's second portion.
Yeah.
Okay. Texas, their best win is Vandy,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Miami's right now is Louisville, and Louisville just dumped Clemson. I bet you Miami's strength of schedule at the end of the year might be better than Texas's based off of their wins. Because if Texas beats Georgia, totally different ballgame. But they lost to Georgia at home. Not on the road, at home. So in reality, that's a bad loss. Not only you lost by 15, but it was a bad loss. And now you have to wait all the way until what? They got a 4-5 5 weeks, not 5 weeks, but like
A&M,
4 weeks until A&M.
A&M's going to be their last kind of big
who
showdown.
knows where A&M's at that point? So we're like,
and if Clemson beats South Carolina at the end of the season, that throws off A&M's thing.
But
so
am I wrong to look at it as okay? I get all that, I get wins and all that, but if the two teams matched up today, who would win?
No, I don't. It's not bad for you to look at that, Micaiah, but you also, we're looking at Miami, and I think this is fair, at Cam Ward. They've still won 9 games. They still have a defense that is playing defense. They still have a 30-year-old tight end who's catching balls.
They're sort of playing defense. That's what they're doing.
I agree with you that when the Texas team that we saw played Michigan was going to be the national champion. But they let Vandy, good Vandy team, don't get me wrong, and to put into Robert's point, best win on their schedule so far, they almost lost to Vandy.
Oh, yeah.
They took their foot off the brake. They took their foot off the gas.
Oh, yeah, but it was 10 points, and then they scored with like 40 seconds to go.
They took their foot off the gas, Micaiah.
But when it comes down to it, you're looking at the game saying 27-24. And it's like, oh, well, they were winning by 10 with 40 seconds. That's all fine and dandy, but when it came down to it, 27-24 is the final. That's what we got to go off of.
And if we get the Texas team that beat Michigan, of course, I agree with you. If we get the Texas team that beat Vanderbilt, I don't know, dude. I honestly don't know.
But you guys are penalizing Texas for a 3-point win, right? 27-24. Meanwhile,
and a 15-point loss at home.
Meanwhile, Miami 4-point win against Vatek, a 25-point comeback against Cal. Louisville was a 14-point comeback. Florida State, that doesn't count. And then Duke, they were trailing by 11 in the third quarter.
Micaiah, I believe a very wise person said a win.
But Texas beat Vanderbilt.
Win is a win.
Yeah, but they lost 2 weeks ago
is a win
to Georgia.
Yeah. I concede that point. I concede the loss.
Win is a win.
I concede the loss.
No, but it's not like their loss was at the beginning of the year, though.
I say again,
their
a win
loss
is a win.
was literally only 3 weeks ago, so you have to put that into perspective too.
I do,
the timing of the loss,
right? Yeah, and I do, and I think that Georgia, in my book, Georgia should be ranked above Texas because of that. Absolutely. But now I think if they play him again, Texas would be better, just because Carson Beck at this point, he's not the same quarterback he was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whenever that was, right?
And like you said, we have 4 more weeks left, and Micaiah, also remember, a win is a win. So let's go over the top 25 again per College Football Playoff Committee. Number 25, Army. So the first, what I'm going to call the condolence rankings, i.e. people who are just here because they want to make them feel good. Army, Missouri, Clemson, Louisville, Washington State, and Colorado are 20 through 25. The back of the pack is what I'm going to call them. Kansas State, Pittsburgh, Iowa State, Ole Miss, LSU. That's 15 through 20. Yeah, you're telling me there's a chance. 10 through, or a bubble, as we had the argument on earlier. The bubble teams. Notre Dame, Alabama, Boise State, SMU, Texas A&M, LSU. And then we already went off the 9 before. Here's going to be my question before we move over, unless you guys want to talk about anything else. Micaiah, just remember, a win is a win. Then, of the teams that are on the bubble and the teams that you're telling me there's a chance, which one of those in 4 months, in 4 weeks, are you going to put money on that's going to be at 12, 10, at the bottom of that ranking? First in.
First in, who's going to be first in at that point?
Correct. Basically, of the 10 through 20 teams, 10 through 19, I'm going to be nice, 10 through 19, who's actually going to make it? I'm sorry. It's a 15 through 19. Which one of those teams has the best shot to make it into the playoff? Because I think that's an interesting list that we're looking at.
And read me them again. Sorry.
LSU's at 15. Ole Miss is at 16.
Yep.
Iowa State's at 17, Pittsburgh's at 18, and Kansas State's at 19. And
I would say LSU. I think we kind of talked about this. LSU.
We did.
Their offense is who I trust the most, or second most there in the SEC. Their defense is middle of the road, but it's getting much better. Ole Miss is still kind of up and down. Plus, they have 2 losses already. LSU also has 2 losses, but only 1 in conference. And then Iowa State. Matt Campbell eventually. Thank you, Simeon. Matt Campbell.
Yeah.
His teams are just too up and down, and I don't trust the Big 12. Kansas State is the same situation there. So, and then Pittsburgh. I agree with you. Pittsburgh has had a very soft schedule to this point, is a very soft 7-1. So I would say out of those teams you gave, LSU 6-2 to be right there at the end.
Okay, so let's go ahead and ask the question that everybody's going to get asked. In this ranking, I put it in chat. Who surprises you the most for where they're at?
Probably be well. Are we saying since the beginning of the season, or just like right now?
For this ranking, who are we surprised? Like your example, BYU. Are we surprised BYU is at 9?
Yeah, I guess. I kind of expected. I thought they would be ahead of Indiana, or ahead of Indiana, probably ahead of Tennessee too. I mean, it's kind of like there's nothing really wrong with the 1 through 12, in my opinion. You're splitting hairs in the top 4.
Yeah,
but BYU can move up. Indiana could just notch one back, because Indiana's schedule isn't great. BYU schedule's okay. Notre Dame could probably be 11, because they can't be 12 because of the rule that Boise State has to be 12 unless they're ranked higher. But because Notre Dame's schedule is not really that great either.
They're
splitting hair.
Yeah, splitting hairs. Again, my biggest issue is that Texas is below Miami, and that's it. But again, the argument is to be had. I think everything outside of Boise State is very interesting. SMU all the way down to Army, outside of Missouri, because Missouri should not be ranked at all. It should be Vanderbilt in that spot.
Whoa, there's a hot take for you.
I don't think that's even a hot take. They beat, at the time, the number 1 team in the country. Their 2 losses, Vanderbilt's 2 losses are quality losses.
Okay.
A 3-point loss to Missouri, and then they have 3 losses, a 3-point loss to Texas, a 3-point loss to Missouri, and then a 4-point loss. Yes, this is their bad loss to Georgia State. So yes, not great, but they are. I would trust them. And yes, okay, I get it. Missouri, they lost to Missouri, 3-point loss to Missouri, but they're better than Missouri right now. So I understand why the committee didn't do it, because head-to-head matchup. But Vanderbilt should be ranked over Missouri. Missouri's bad.
I just don't. What were they ranked last week?
And they were ranked 25. They were the gatekeepers. And Rob, fine. Then if you don't want to put Vanderbilt in there, then put Navy in there. Put someone else in there. Tulane's playing good.
Navy just fell off.
Tulane's playing good football right now. I guess they did lose to Rice, and I had forgotten about that, right? South Carolina just came off a big-time win, right? I think all those teams are better than Missouri.
All right, I hate to stop you guys, but we're getting towards the end, and we still want to. Micaiah, give me what games the guys, everybody should watch this weekend. I know you have a few picked out.
So I kind of did this hastily, but the games to watch this week: Georgia, Ole Miss. That's very interesting. I feel like they're kind of both. Ole Miss definitely is on a have to win out to even have a shot in, as we see with their ranking there. Georgia, with the way Carson Beck is playing and that kind of offensive team as a whole is playing, this is a must-win for Georgia. I'm not sure that a 2-loss Georgia team with not a conference championship makes it in. right? Despite being ranked where they are right now, which is they're at 3. I think a 2-loss Georgia team gets kind of pushed down with depending on how things play out and misses it altogether. Colorado, Texas Tech, that is a battle at the top of the Big 12 standings, especially for Colorado. Colorado is 4-1. Texas Tech is 4-2 and just coming off of an upset to Iowa State. So again, it's 5-0 BYU in conference, 4-1, 4-1 Iowa State, Colorado. Then 4-2 has Kansas State, Texas Tech, and then 3-2 are Cincinnati Bearcats, Arizona, and West Virginia. So these are big time games. 2 conference losses might, depending on how things play out, get you in the Big 12 championship game. South Carolina and Vandy. South Carolina coming off of a huge win on Saturday night at home. Vanderbilt 3-2. Guess what? No undefeated teams left in the conference. Georgia sits atop at 5-1, and then it's A&M 5-1, Tennessee 4-1, Texas 3-1, LSU 3-1. But then guess what? Vandy 3-2, South Carolina 3-3. These are huge games, especially for Vandy. Vandy wants to submit their kind of shot to be included in the college football playoff conversation, at least in the SEC title game. Listen, if things go their way, 2 losses might make things very interesting for them, and they might get in. And then finally, Alabama, LSU. Very interesting. LSU is a must-win out. You got to win out to get in. Robert, am I wrong? Is Alabama in the same situation? Got to win out to get in?
Oh yeah, I mean, they need help, a lot of help. They have to win. They can't lose. And their season relies on this weekend. They lose this weekend, I don't see a way they get in.
Both teams,
unless
right?
a lot goes on. Oh, yeah, 100.
Both teams. So this is a must-win. 2 SEC powerhouses are battling for their playoff lives this week, and one of them is going to be eliminated at the end of Saturday night, which is crazy to think about, that Alabama might be gone first week of November. LSU might be gone first week of November. That's crazy to think about. And then the SEC would be down to only a handful of 3 teams. Right now, 3 teams in the top, or 4 teams if you count Bama, but one of them goes out. They're down to 3 teams in the top 12. So that's what I'm watching this weekend. It's going to be a fascinating weekend with these rankings. And a lot of teams, because of the way the standings are right now, it is must win out. You got to win to get in. I mean, LSU probably has to win out and then get some help to get in, I would even say, because they're probably not making the championship game. Well, maybe not. They only got one.
They only have one conference loss.
Yeah. So I mean, again, that's a little.
They need help.
they need help, but Alabama needs more help.
Help! I've fallen. I can't get up. It's going to be a good week for college football, one way or another, especially. And go watch that South Carolina Vandy game. Highly, highly, highly recommend. Also, shout out Grandma. Shout out Findlay, Ohio. Ranked 24 in the Division II rankings. They're 8-1. Micaiah, you could have gone and saw a game. Just letting you know. Kutztown is number 3. Thanks, Robert, for looking that up.
You got
shouting that out. All right, it's everyone's favorite time of the podcast. If you didn't enjoy it so far, it's the time where we rank, and of course my transition sound effects didn't work, where we pick. Oh, am I in first place?
You
at
are
18 and 15.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Was I shooting layups the past 3 weeks, and does that put me in first place?
No, but you were shooting layups before that when you were 8 games below 500.
I don't know. Listen, I'm only we're separated by 2 games, guys. This is going to come down to the wire. I kind of like it. I'm not going to lie. Micaiah, I hope you made your picks. I had to do it real quick. I have 5, so if we match up, I'll pick another one. Let's go ahead and start with you. Robert, we'll end with you as always.
Okay, Indiana and Michigan. Listen, the over-under is 48.5. Michigan's probably going to drop 40 in and of himself. Michigan's offense is competent enough to put up at least 17, as we saw against Oregon. And I think Indiana's defense, if you're going to pick a weak spot, that is the weak spot of their team, I would say. So give me the over 48.5. This seems like a lock. Michigan's defense isn't good. Indiana's offense is incredible. And then Michigan finds a way to muster 14 to 17 points.
Of course, it's one of the best defenses in the Big Ten currently. But, beside the point, who have they played, to your point earlier? I have them at minus 13.5. There's no way they're not beating Michigan by 2 touchdowns if they beat Michigan. But that's not my pick. We're going to scroll up here. And we're going to double dip. We're going to double dip at the well. For like the 4th or 5th week in a row, Vanderbilt is an underdog. Get it? Vegas is finally coming up to it. They're only a 3.5 point underdog to South Carolina at home. This is a chance for them to finally say, this is the SEC, this is Vandy's land. So give me Vanderbilt plus 3.5 against South Carolina.
Well, since we pretty much almost are all on a consensus about Michigan and Indiana, I got Indiana at minus 14. And I don't see how Michigan keeps it within 14. It'll be close in the first half, maybe only down 7. But Indiana's a very, very good second half team, and they are definitely going to pour it on, probably score 45. And Michigan is going to sit there with their thumbs up their rear ends trying to figure out to score 17 points.
Simeon, by the way, you said Sharon Moore ain't it. Apparently, Michigan is shooting up the recruiting rankings. They currently are 10, which is the highest they've been in the last 3 years. So he's doing that.
He's doing something. He's doing something.
Because it ain't on the field.
They lost their 4-star quarterback. They're really going all in on this kid from right down the road, Bryce Underwood, trying to flip him from LSU. Shout out Dave Portnoy. He's going to be giving way too much money probably to that kid, $8 million. So Robert, you did take Indiana minus 14, minus 14.5, whatever, 13.5, whatever they're getting right now. I'm gonna go with a weird one. This is a gut feeling. Oh, I have a couple. I'm gonna go with this one.
Not be that good of a gut feeling. Then.
This is a gut. Well, all my gut. The rest are gut feelings. So I have Indiana minus 13.5 was one of them, but this is my gut feeling. Maryland plus 24.5 against Oregon. At Oregon. Can't tell you why. I know Maryland's put a few games together, good games together, and I'm hoping this is one of them. 24 is a lot of points. Who knows, dude? Who knows? Next year we're going Superdog so that we can make these dumb predictions and just jump rankings because that will be more fun. So that's give me Maryland plus 24.5.
My second one, Simeon, you already covered. It's Vandy plus 3.5 to South Carolina. South Carolina coming off of a monster win at home. This is this is a just typical, no one cares about Vandy, South Carolina riding that high, and here comes Diego Pavia. Is this in Nashville, by the way? Do you know?
Yes, it is in Nashville.
It's in Nashville. Oh, dude, Vandy's going to win this game outright, probably.
Shout out Pimp Walking SEC Shorts Vandy character will be at the game.
Yeah.
For those of you real college football nerds,
so
you know
Simeon,
what's up.
Simeon, I love that 3.5, and I took that because I did this yesterday. So Vandy plus 3.5 as well.
So sorry, I thought these were last week's.
No, you're good.
Picks
you're
for
good.
You. I wouldn't have taken that from you, Maryland. Robert.
Well, I like to take these weekday games, and I was kind of upset because Kennesaw State is not a weekday game this week, so I couldn't go back to the well. So I had to settle for Friday. Friday, November 8th, 2024. New president that time, who it is, don't know. I'll tell you what I do know. The Iowa Hawkeyes going to Pasadena, California to play UCLA. I was giving 5.5.
Yeah, I looked at that.
I'm going to take it
Yeah.
because UCLA welcome to the Big Ten. You're about to get romped and stomped by the Hawkeyes.
Yeah, I was looking at that, and I almost took that myself. Go ahead.
I realized that my last pick was not a game that no one's going to watch. So, Makai, go ahead.
This is a monster over that I'm taking because I just love it. It's Oklahoma State and TCU. Army, North Texas. I wanted to take that over, but I can't guarantee that the quarterback's going to play. And if Army's quarterback doesn't play, I can't guarantee that their offense will roll because North Texas's defense sucks and their offense is really good. But I can't guarantee that. What I know is that Oklahoma State's defense is real bad and TCU's defense is real bad, but yet they both have offenses that are at least like really good, and especially TCU. Over under 66.5. That's stupid over. Well, you know what? I'm 2-1. Or I went 1-2 last week. I'm 16-17, and I am stupid. So give me the over. Cowboys, Horned Frogs, 66.5.
That's the dumbest hand signal.
It is. It really is.
And I had to go and I had to find one quick. Technically, this guy's not a game that no one's going to watch because it's on Fox at 8 p.m. But let me tell you, it's a game that no one is going to watch. I promise you. It is the Wolfpack of Nevada, who is 0-4 in the Mountain West, going to Boise. Wait, Albertson Stadium. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yep, that's Bronco land. That's going to Boise. Over-under is... Don't love this because I really want to take him at Boise at -24. But that seems like too much of a layup, and I don't want to get made fun of any more than I already am in the group chat. Give me the over of 60.5 points for the Nevada Wolfpack Boise State Broncos game. It's going to be fun. Ascengenti, have at him, dude. Go for 5. Cover it yourself. Go over yourself.
Now it leaves you, Robert.
I'm responding to your thing.
Oh, I see.
All right. So a game that a soul is not going to watch unless they are absolute fans of these teams, but they really shouldn't be. UNLV and Hawaii.
Oh, late
Oh,
night
there you
game.
go.
Yes, 9 p.m. So I will not be watching this game. The over-under is 49.5. So I decided to take that over because I don't think either of these teams are good. UNLV's okay, but they're not good. Hawaii, never been good, unless Colt Brennan was slinging the rock. But give me the over.
A 49.5?
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems pretty good. Love that.
Is that
Sorry.
the right one? I don't
No.
think that is.
That is.
That's the right
there.
one. We find the right ones. Our soundboards are weird. Listen, that was a live reaction.
The polling places are closed. Why are there still political ads going on? Wash your hands, you filthy animals.
That's good enough for me.